Hey everyone, we're back with Energy Captains Cam Lynch and Whitney Holtzman and my guy Nick Moore. We're gonna dive into some great stories because I played middle school football with Nick. You know what I mean? And Nick is now a long snapper for the Ravens. I'm a former NFL player, and so excited to dive into this with you, Nick. But first of all, Whitney, how are you doing? What's life looking like in Gatorland over there? Because I do want to jump into some Gator UGA talk a little bit with you all. But how are you doing over there, Whitney?
It's taking everything I have not to Gator chomp during this entire episode. And, before we get too deep, I will remind Nick that between the time I was accepted to UF and graduated, we won 2 basketball and 2 football championships. I was also in Tim Tebow's class, so we had the Heisman. So anyway, I just think the bar is set high. But I mean, by all means, definitely try to match that. UGA has had a good run recently, and I'll give you that. But I don't know, try and match the time that I had at UF. And for those who don't know, our guest Nick Moore, the long snapper for the Baltimore Ravens.
Absolutely. Nick,
thanks
for joining us.
How are you doing, Nick? Thanks for joining.
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me on. Whitney coming in hot with some Florida Gator life. It seems like you were at Florida at the best time. I'm a huge Tim Tebow fan. I love what he did in sports. I love what he does outside of football, and I got a lot of respect for that. I did watch the Untold, the Gators Untold, the Swamp, whatever the name of it was. Interesting times at Florida back then, to say the least. But,
yeah.
In my time at Georgia, we went 2-2 against the Gators, and since then, I was there 15-18. So since then, we've kind of dominated the Gators a little bit over the last 10 years or so, and it's been great to be a Georgia Bulldog.
So what I'm hearing is you went to Georgia, and then after you left is when they got good.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I will say this. In 2017, we went to the national championship. I remember one of the best feelings from that season was about 5 minutes into the third quarter, we were winning, I think, 34-0. And the entire Florida side of Jacksonville Stadium was empty. It was like a ghost town. And our guys just started leaking over to the other side. So it was basically a full Jacksonville Stadium of Georgia Bulldogs. And that was a great way I think we ended up winning 41-0 and, proceeded to lose to Alabama in the national championship like everybody else. So that was great. But yeah, they've had a lot of success since I left Georgia. I'm slightly jealous of the national championships, but I'll be honest, I was built for the NFL. I was not built for college football, so I'm happy to be where I'm at.
And built for baseball as well, Nick. Let's dive into this really quick because after high school, so going back to this really quick, Nick and I played middle school football together. His dad, Coach Moore, was my linebacker coach, and so we won some titles in middle school. Then went up to high school, won a state championship. Nick played He played punter, he played quarterback. Got thumbs up here. Played safety. But then after high school, Nick, can you share with the people what you did after high school?
Before we dive into that, I need to know what Cam was like in middle school and high school, because I didn't meet him until his NFL days. And, we all know Cam starts at 1,000%. And so, that's the version I know. But what was little Cam like?
Chunky. Chunky is right.
Cam was chunky.
Oh yeah,
he was a little chunky. We met 7th grade, I think, 6th or 7th grade, and
look, it's an awkward time for everyone.
Everyone goes through their phases. I think the fondest memory I have of Cam is that he was such a mama's boy when we were growing up, sweetest kid. My dad was hardcore, coaching us in middle school. He was a high school football coach, and he's basically coaching us the same way he's coaching these 18-year-old kids. And we're 11, 12 years old, still trying to figure out what to do. Yeah, it was a lot. But Cam is arguably him and Rennie Curran, 2 linebackers that played at my high school. Those are 2 of my dad's favorite players. And he's been coaching football at Brookwood since 1981 when the school opened. He's still kicking. He's still going. He's changed his job. This year is going to be the first year he's not actually coaching. So but he's still there. He's still rocking it. And Cam has always been one of the nicest guys, unbelievable athlete. My brother actually sent me I forgot about this. My brother sent me the 2006 eighth grade championship banner, like at Bethesda Park.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, man, that's a blast from the past because that's so long. I was a little
You got
20
to send me that.
and
Yeah.
so we've known each other for a long time. And Cam was the football guy in high school. He prom king, I believe.
Yeah.
I never
Dated.
knew that,
Yeah.
Cam.
Yeah.
Cam was
What a
Mr.
Renaissance
Personality in
man.
high school, man. He was everybody loved him, had that contagious smile, still rocking it.
Yeah.
He was super popular amongst all the ladies in high school and
My
just
wife has
overall
just walked in.
sorry.
All
Oh,
good. All
Nick,
good. She
this
knows.
intel is priceless. We would
he
never
did he,
know
he had
about
a
Mr. Prom King if it
he
weren't for
was
you.
like me. We both had long-term girlfriends in high school.
Yeah.
Neither one of them made the cut, but
Yeah.
they're both sweet ladies, but
Yeah.
that was it. High school was about all they had. So, but
And what
Cam was a
do
great guy.
what do they feed you at Brookwood? The fact that like in middle school you guys became friends, teammates, and then high school and you won a state championship, but there are multiple guys who've gone to the NFL. Like, what's happening at Brookwood?
I think leadership, like Coach
I
Moore.
think so.
Coach Moore keeping the guys together. Nick, what do you think?
I agree. I think there was such a rich tradition at Brookwood when we were coming through high school in the late 2000s. We had basically my high school had three coaches, like head football coaches from 81 to 2014 when our coach retired. But the first guy was only there for a little bit. But then we had a coach came in 1987 that was there till 2001. And then our head coach, Mark Cruz, took over in 2002. And there was just a standard there. I think a lot of, every major sporting organization tries to emulate that standard where you have the guys in the past. Like we always talked about at Brookwood, like, you're playing for the guys that like came before you and they paved the way for you. And we used to bring guys back in, come talk to us. Like Rennie Curran was a great example. Another guy played linebacker at Georgia, played in the NFL for a little bit. And some other guys that had played a long time and played in the NFL. Jason Elam was a kicker, played 20 years in the NFL, borderline Hall of Famer. And those guys were just coming back talking about what it meant to play football at a special place like Brookwood. And I think Cam and I both, and a lot of the people that were my age, we were fortunate that my dad was there when we were young. Mm-hmm. He kind of instilled in us that tradition and that expectation of hard work and, physical football and team oriented football. And we learned that at such a young age. By the time we were seniors in high school, like we had been doing it for 10 years. Like we were built to win a state championship way before we were state champions. I mean, years and years before. And the camaraderie that we built over those years of just being around each other all the time and the friendships and the brotherhood that we had, like it, to me, like winning the state championship was just icing on the cake for all the stuff that we got out of the hard work and the difficult times that we went through together as growing adults and young men. So we were very blessed to have people in the community and coaches at Brookwood that were there for a long time, and they really poured into us and they really wanted us to succeed, not just in football, but outside of football. And, I think Cam is a great example of someone who was extremely intelligent off the field. And he was also very, he had a lot of accolades on the field. He was one of our captain, all state, all-star team. He had kind of the whole package and a really great personality and a really genuine person. And we just had a lot of guys like that. And, we're very fortunate because I'm still friends with a lot of those guys and still, we may not talk as much now as we used to, but every time we see each other, we hug each other, we tell them we love them, we reminisce on the past. And those are special connections that we'll have forever. And I just hope that now as a father, I hope my kids get to experience something similar because nowadays it's not quite the same. Like kids don't grow up together from, little league football to middle school to high school. It's not quite the same. So we were very blessed for that.
Yeah. Great parents too. By the
Great
way,
parents.
our parents were locked. Our parents
The
were locked
best.
in, Whitney. Like, yeah, like we had like our Thursday, or Wednesday team dinners. Like parents are dropping us off. They're picking us up. We're going to workouts. And like the other caveat to Whitney is like we all got great grades. Like Nick Moore, honor student. We had some AP courses. Like we were all pushing the bar extremely high, and it was a school of excellence. So, yeah, Nick, I appreciate you breaking that down really nicely because it was better than I could have done it.
And it sounds like, from what I hear you saying, is that consistency, tradition, culture, and investing in one another above all else is sort of the formula. And I think any team in any league could take those characteristics and apply them and probably end up having success by focusing on those 4 qualities.
Yeah, I think those are the biggest ones. I mean, we just had such great examples. We were so fortunate that we had teachers and coaches and former players that really, and people in the community that really poured into us. And I say we as in like everybody that went to Brookwood, but I've mainly focused on our class because there was probably way more talent before us and probably way more talent after us.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference was we bought into each other. We bought into doing things together. We weren't trying to be the cool kids. Like, yeah, we were people liked us because of who we were and we were genuine most of the time, but we didn't party. We didn't, do the extracurricular stuff. Like we were all focused on doing as best we could in school, doing as best we could in sports. And it kind of culminated in, winning the second state championship in school history, but the first one in 16 or 14 years. And it was something that was really special. And, people talk all the time, especially at my level, and Cam can attest to this, like there's nothing like high school football. If you get in a situation that we had, and you really, really love each other and you know each other's families and you've been around each other for a long time, that is the top of football. Because after that, it becomes business. Like it becomes a job. Mm-hmm. College football is a job. NFL, it's a revolving door of players. There might be a handful of guys you're friends with, but the majority of the guys, they're in and out and you're not. It's not the same. And for us, we were just so lucky that we had – I don't even know how many guys we had on the team, but everyone from the guy who was the all-star to the guy who never played on the field, everyone was bought in. Everyone accepted their role, and they did it to the best of their ability. And it's just something that I will cherish forever. As long as I'm kicking around, it's one of the greatest years of my life.
Agreed. I'll double down on that. And Nick, we're talking a lot about football right now, but let's talk about your baseball career too, my guy, because you were winning state championships in football, but doing your thing on the baseball field as well. So can you describe how you balance not only great academics, a girlfriend in high school, football, but then also your baseball career too?
Baseball was always my dream as a kid. Ever since I was 5 years old, there was a thing I did in kindergarten, and I said I wanted to be a professional baseball player. Growing up in Atlanta in the 90s and early 2000s, that was kind of the prime Atlanta Braves baseball.
Yeah.
Winning. Chipper Jones.
Yeah. Chip, Smoltz, Glavine, Andrew Jones, Maddox, all these guys. We just constantly winning baseball games. And so like watching that as a kid was just something I really admired and really strove to do. And, I think my parents, they were both teachers, and they kind of kept me in line when it came to academics. And my dad, being a football and baseball coach, kept me in line in sports. And, my dad used to say things to us as we were kids. I got 2 brothers, one older, one younger. And he used to threatening is not the correct term, but he used to say things like, if you do this, you're going to get in trouble. Or if you do that, you're going to hurt your chances of playing, sports post high school. And I just took that to heart. Like I believed in my dad when he said he would, there would be issues if I got caught drinking or if I was out smoking or if I did, if I skipped workouts or if I got told on for acting out in class. And, doing all that stuff. So I took that to heart, and I tried to do everything I could to not be a problem. And
I need your dad to parent my future children.
My dad is hardcore now. It was hard. It was tough. Growing up wasn't. It was, as an adult, with my own kids now, I really can appreciate what my dad was able to get out of me and my brothers, and how he was able to lead us as men. And I'm very appreciative of that, and I respect what he did, because that was what he knew. And it's not for everybody, because it was hard. I mean, it was hardcore. I mean, he used to get on us, and he used to lay down the law. And as I grew older, I started to really understand that he was doing what he thought was best, and he had my future in his mind when he was doing the things that he did. And I was just very lucky that he was there and able to lay down the law. And so when it came to baseball, high school baseball was also another really fun experience for me. Similar, slightly different, because I didn't grow up playing baseball with the guys on the high school team. When I was younger, I was kind of playing with a bunch of different teams. And it was still one of the best times, because the team is so small, and like, you're together all the time, and it's just a different environment than football. And we're, again, fortunate to have a great coaching staff in high school that really pushed us to be better than what we thought we were capable of being, and really tried to instill values in us, like hard work and discipline and dedication, and paying attention to the little details, and really taking pride in your work ethic and your body of work, is what we called it. And I was able to have some success in high school, and fortunately I got drafted out of high school by the Boston Red Sox. And as an 18-year-old kid, like, that was his dream. And for me, it was like, I didn't even think twice about it. I got the opportunity to do it, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing it, man. I'll worry about everything else when it's over, because I was like, I'm going to play in the big leagues and do that.
So how does that work? You're in high school, you're thinking about, what's next. Most people, if they're playing high school football, they go right to college football. How do you even decide if you're going to play football or baseball?
Yeah. Do you get an agent? Because Whitney's an agent, by the way, Nick. If you didn't know, she's an agent. So how did you navigate
Thanks
that?
for the plug, Cam. I'm an agent because of Cam. I just have to say, I was totally fine just doing my marketing stuff. And then Cam's like, what's the one thing you don't do? You should become an agent. So it's his fault.
Good for you. Again, I put a lot of emphasis on my dad and kind of leading me through that challenge, because it was a difficult time. Like, I never dreamt of playing in the National Football League. That was never my intention. I never, like, if you had told me as an 18-year-old kid in high school, like, even after we won the state championship, I was like, man, I ain't playing football. Like, that's it's over with. Like, I had my fun in high school. I got, it's funny, because 95% of all my accolades in high school were football related. Mm-hmm. And, I was just a really average white dude who was kind of slow, but I was really smart, because I grew up with my dad, and we used to watch film as kid, like when I was a little kid, we used to watch film at the dinner table. Like, I was in like 9U football and we're like watching tape, and he's coaching me like I'm an 18-year-old kid. And so I grew up around the system that Brookwood had in place. And by the time I got to my senior year, and I was fortunate to play a lot as a sophomore, play a lot as a junior. And then by the time I got to my senior year, like, I was basically a coach that played on the team. Like, I knew every detail about my job, about everybody's job on defense. And you play
quarterback too, backup, just in case.
Exactly. And I was very fortunate that I learned the system for so many, 10, 15 years as I was growing up. And I felt like I was able to play at a higher level in high school, just because I was so smart. Like, we would watch tape at practice, and then I would go home, and my dad and we'd watch tape for hours, and we'd be watching film, and like on the TV in the living room, we'd just be all night, every night. I'd be doing my homework, we'd be watching tape, and my dad would be coaching me. Like, it never stopped. It was an ongoing cycle. And I really think that was why, I'm not gonna lie, my stats were pretty good in high school. So,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of that was because I was so knowledgeable about the game of football and about how other teams that we were playing were going to try to attack us and what they were good at, where their strengths and weaknesses were, and how they would try to get after us and how we could counter that. And I just knew every little detail of it, and I was able to play at a much higher level than my athletic abilities should have allowed me to play. And it's one of those things that like I didn't realize it when I was in high school. Like I never thought that way about it. I just thought like I'm really good. Like I watched Dave, like we all watch Dave together and we practice, and I just have good instincts on the field. And our coach used to say I was the savviest football player he'd ever had, and because I by far was not the most athletic guy out there. Definitely wasn't the fastest, but my dad taught me to be physical, and he taught me to work my butt off and learn as much as I can.
You're watching NFL tape in diapers,
yeah.
so I mean,
yeah.
no surprise we're at this point.
Yeah, and so I think that was my biggest catalyst for why I was able to perform so well. And I wasn't a captain my senior year. Guys didn't vote for me, but
that's messed up.
Yeah, it is what it is. I did see a picture recently of you and Blake Fussell, and I was a little hurt. I was a little upset. I was like, damn, because I should have been one, and then by the end of the season, everybody knew that like I was, it was basically Cam and I, and we had another guy, Andre, and we were kind of the three guys that everybody looked to, because when shit hit the fan, like everybody's panicking. Quarterback gets hurt, we're losing to so-and-so, whatever's happening in the playoffs. It's like one of us is going to get something done. And I think, Cam probably has another play in mind for himself. But like for me, you remember this, Cam? Ben got hurt against Norcross. Remember, he got hurt. I had to go in and punt. I had to go in to be the punter.
Yeah.
And so that was in the second round of the playoffs. And then 2 games later, we're playing Collins Hill in the semifinals. And they had arguably the best quarterback in the nation in Taylor Heineke, and he was lighting up, had all these, throwing all these touchdowns and had all these yards and stuff. And there was no way we were going to win the game, And we were battling pretty good in the first half, and there was an opportunity. We were going out to punt, and a couple weeks before, I was like, Coach, man, they're leaving this side open. Like I could just get the ball and run. And my coach and I, he comes up to a game every year. I grew up. Like he's almost like my second dad. So I've known him my entire life. And I was always joking with him, like, Mark, come on, man, it's there. Let me take it. And he looked at me and he said, if you take it and you don't get it, you stay on that sideline, don't come back.
Damn.
I said, all right, Coach, you're giving me the green light. He said, you heard what I said.
Yeah.
So fast forward to the semifinals. I think it was like 7-7 or 10-7 or something. It was a really close game in the first half. And we were punting the ball back to them right before halftime. And I just said, you know what, dude? It's there. Let me do it. So I called my own number, didn't tell anybody, caught the punt, ran up the sideline for like 50 yards. We ended up scoring kicking a field goal or something right before halftime. And that we ended up hammering them pretty good.
Yeah.
And that to me is just like, the trust that I had earned from my coaches and my teammates to when I did something like that, they knew I was doing it because it was what I thought was best for the team, and they trusted me to get the job done. And it was just something that was really cool that I will remember probably forever.
Yeah. And really quick too, by the way, people don't realize the Collins Hill that Nick is talking about, Taylor Heineke played at, right? The same Taylor Heineke that beat the Buccaneers, I think, in the playoffs at one point, and then the same school that Travis Hunter went to as well. And so that school is a pretty prominent school, pretty good school. And going back to the captain piece, right? I think we all realize this is, I think even since middle school, we all knew that you were a leader, right? Whether you're had the C on your chest or not, right? You're a leader of the team. And so I think that was one thing that we always said is, hey, if we couldn't make 4 people the captain, like just know that you're a leader in your own right. So you're a captain of my heart, my guy. So don't ever forget that.
I don't think Nick is over this whole not being the captain thing. So maybe we can like get the team together, like get an email chain going, see if we can retroactively assign him the seat, because I think he won't be happy until it happens.
Yeah, maybe we got the 15-year state championship reunion coming up this year, so maybe this year the guys will give me the credit that I deserve. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it because it's during the season for me. But no, I mean, the guys, I love all those guys, and they my wife just got
Nick has spent the whole rest of his life playing every major league sport, making it to the highest level just to prove he should have been a captain during that senior season. He's like, what more do I have to do?
That was a little bit. It was one of those things that, like, I was a coach's kid. My best friend Ben was our quarterback. He was another coach's kid, and I think guys at the early on in the season, I think they maybe wanted to go against that grain of having guys that weren't coaches' kids because they knew that me and Ben were going to be there regardless of whether they wanted us to be there or not. And just because
or they were just hating. Or they were just hating.
I think so. I think a little bit of it. I think there was a little bit of that in there. I was, as some would say, I was a little bit of a douchebag back in the day, and I've overgrown myself.
Shout out to growth, Nick. Shout out to growth.
A lot of personal growth. My wife has been the catalyst in that, and I'm very fortunate for her. So I definitely needed to mature, and I think the baseball story that maybe we'll get into is kind of the beginning stages of my maturing development. So
so take us there. So you finish high school, you're dominant in 2 sports, and then what happens next?
So I was committed to play baseball at Kennesaw State outside of Atlanta, a really good, prominent baseball school. I signed there in early November, my senior year. And then after my senior season, I got drafted by the Boston Red Sox. And back in the day,
how does that happen? Like, do you know you're going to be drafted, or just like the phone rings and they're like, it's the Boston Red Sox?
You hit bombs, Whitney. You just hit bombs over the fence, and they're like, sign him up.
Like, do you know you're in the running?
I was very fortunate to play with 2 guys in high school. One, Lucas Sims, was a first-round draft pick to the Braves. He's still playing. He's the closer for the Cincinnati Reds. And then another guy, Trey Martin, who was a really big-time baseball recruit. And being a 2-sport athlete, it was hard for me to get some notoriety back in the day because they were doing all these baseball tournaments like during football season. And for us, like for me back in high school, it was like baseball January to June. As soon as July 1st, it was football to all the way to January. And so I didn't have any crossover. Like I never played baseball in the fall. I didn't do, a lot of these showcase type things that other players had ability to get to. And so I was lucky that I had 2 guys on my team that were very talented baseball players. And they played a long time, and one of them's still going. And guys were coming to watch them. And I was just fortunate that they were there and I was able to perform well. And, honestly, I'd always hoped I'd get drafted, but it wasn't quite like it is today where I feel like guys know that that's a thing. Like, I didn't really see that as a possibility just because I was doing a lot of different stuff back then. And when I got the call, like when draft day came, I was like, all right, I'm going to listen because I feel like I have a chance. There's 50 rounds. Like, I might get called. I ended up getting called in the 30th round, pick 922. And,
wow.
I think that changed my life. It didn't change it the way I thought it was going to, but
why not?
Definitely, getting drafted and going into minor league baseball, you don't know, as an 18-year-old kid, you don't know what it's about. And you just see the Chipper Jones, the Ken Griffey Jr., the Derek Jeter, the A-Rod, the Barry Bonds. Like, you see those guys and you're like, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And, for me, it was like Chipper Jones and Barry Bonds were like my 2 guys growing up. And that was the dream. Like, I want to be like these guys. I was a switch hitter, just like Chipper. I played third base. Like, I modeled my game after Chipper Jones. And that's what I wanted to be. But you don't know the story of how they got there and what it took to get there and all the stuff that they had to go through in the minors. And it's another beast that, like, I was totally not prepared for as an 18-year-old. And when I left baseball at 22, I left with 0 regrets. I did everything I could. I worked my butt off. I did all the right things. I was fortunate there again to be with guys that like Mookie Betts, who is still one of my closest friends and is just the most unbelievably talented athlete I've ever been around. And I learned fairly quickly that like if this is what it takes to make it to the big leagues, brother, I ain't got it. Like I'm just gonna be straight up. I'm good. I was a really good baseball player, but man, I was nowhere near those guys.
What was it like playing with Mookie? I mean, I know you see Shohei Ohtani, they're in Japan, they're doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure Mookie saying the same thing about Shohei, like, bro, what is this? But yeah, what was it like playing with Mookie?
It was one of the coolest experiences to learn because he's a lot like you, a super nice guy, very genuine, happy, good personality, positive guy, good teammate, great friend, really cared about the guys, and just had this tenacious work ethic that was so contagious. Like I was lucky that him and I got drafted together. We were both out of high school trying to figure out life as 18-year-olds. And we became really good friends, and we lived together for my 5 spring trainings that I had. And I was so blessed to have him there and just talk to him, being able to pick his brain about stuff, because he was the leaps and bounds ahead of me as far as baseball concerned. And just like, we're figuring it out together. Like we don't know how to do anything as kids. And we got all this money and we're just sitting there like, what do we do? And he, like me, had a really good family support system. And I got to know his parents really well. And I just was able to be with him all the time. And it really made me a better player and a better person, because I was able to just kind of follow his lead, because he had a little bit more notoriety. He was a higher draft pick than I was, and he was far more talented than me, but he kind of brought me along with him. And I never missed opportunities because I wasn't good enough. Mook always made sure I had a fair opportunity, just like he did. And
that's love.
He looked out for me my whole time, and even still now. And he's Mr. Baseball, MVP, 3-time World Series champ, Jordan athlete, like worth, signed a $400 million deal, kind of did the dream that we were talking about in the slums in the minor leagues. And, it's really something that I really enjoy, and I take a lot of pride in. Like, I had a small piece in that. And, if nothing else, I taught him to be better at video games back in the day. But it was something that, like, again, not a lot of people get to experience being around somebody like that. And I was around him all the time, and I still can text him and call him and reach out to him and still be able to talk, pick his brain. And he, he's still there for me. So I'm just very blessed that, I was put in that situation. And I think it helped me propel into my next career. And I think he had a lot to do with that. So I'm very fortunate for that.
True definition of a leader.
And so you talk about next career, right? So Nick, can you talk about that, right? You play long snapper at UGA. I think you graduate with a mathematics degree. Like, come on, fam. You did mention that you were a switch hitter, so you're ambidextrous. Like, what can you not do, my guy, at this point, right?
Wait, was it hard being old in college? Like, you started at the age when most people are graduating. By old, I mean old for college.
Wise, yeah.
Yes.
I think that was that was the most difficult transition I ever had to do. I think being in pro baseball, it's a lot like the NFL in the sense that, like, it's your career. You have to take precedence and priority over your career, and you have to do the things that you think are best for you to succeed on the field. And it's kind of like very hands off. So I was 18, 19, 20, 21, like figuring out how to take care of my body, how to eat right, how to train, how to work and do all this stuff. And then kind of on my own. And when I get to college, it's total opposite. It is like my day was mapped out from wake up to go to bed, schedule there to the minute the whole time. And it was really hard adjustment for me. Like, I was 22 when I started. My classmates were 18. Like, I had been through so much life between 18 and 22 that I struggled big time with going backwards, what I felt like was going backwards in time to go to college and being treated like a little kid again.
They took away your independence.
They did, for sure. And that was a real struggle my first year. Like, having these mandatory sessions of tutoring and all this stuff as a freshman. And I'm like, I'm older than like 90% of the guys on the team. Like guys I graduated high school with were on the team. Guys that were behind me in high school were on the team. So like I was there with dudes that I grew up with, 3 guys that I grew up and went to high school with that were on the team. And luckily one of them was one of my good boys, Cam Faulkner. He really kind of took me under his wing and showed me the ropes and, helped me kind of get into the team and meet all the guys and get to know everybody. And it was definitely a culture shock. Just college football is so much different than baseball. And football and baseball are just totally different in itself. But balancing school again, because I was out of school for 5 years, and balancing like the student athlete side of it. And it was definitely an adjustment that took a long time for me to kind of really get my grasp and get my head around. And, fortunately, my parents, again, I keep going back to them, but they were there for me, help me through this transition and really pushing me to, take it on head on and not get like discouraged and, all the stuff that comes with being an athlete and really balancing all of it. And they were great for that and really kind of propelled me into my academic studies. And because for me, like going back to school, the whole goal was go to school, use football as a catalyst for what comes after. So I never, like when I started in college, I started as a linebacker, quickly moved to fullback, and I never like planned for being in the NFL. My plan was to like use football as a way to network, connect with people, do really well in school, get some really nice degrees, and then leverage my platform as a UGA football player and graduate and alumni to help me in my next avenue after sports. And I was lucky that I had coaches again that were able to see that I was talented and really work with me to try to find a position that suited my talent and my temperament. And it was a struggle for a long time in college. I was battling a lot of stuff, especially by the end. I was 26 years old. Like, it was hard. And my teammates were, some of them were 8 years younger than me. And like, that was a very difficult adjustment. And,
what were some of those battles, Nick? Like you mentioned, battles. What did that look like?
Just like the little things, like getting texts every day to go to your final exam. Like, no, like, bro, I know I have a final exam. Like, I'm here for school. Or like, I was a walk-on, 4-year walk-on in college, like getting treated as a walk-on. I played a little bit at the beginning of my career, but nothing sufficient. And it was just hard, like getting kind of shit on, really being a walk-on and like getting some of the bitch work and having to do some extra stuff to like, do well in school to be that GPA guy. And like a lot of shit that like I got lumped into because guys on my team were immature and young and hadn't experienced the life that I had experienced. So they were experiencing it, but with such a magnifying glass over them and being constantly monitored and like having dumbass meetings because people were getting in trouble doing stuff that they shouldn't have been doing. And it's like that, it was so difficult. And like the college football life is just I was not built to do that. Like I was not built to be, I'm an adult. If you tell me I have an opportunity to play a position, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that I have a chance. And
you're driven and a self-starter. And it sounds like in baseball, you get out of it what you put into it. And when you went to college, your entrepreneurial spirit and ability to be a superstar was almost taken away, and you were grouped in with the weakest common link.
Yeah. And that was hard. That was a hard reality when I got there. And fortunately I was able to show like, I am an adult. I'm going to take care of my business. I don't need people I don't need a class checker to sign me up. If I'm going to class, like I'm paying for this degree. So I'm going to do what I need to do to get my degree done. I don't need a babysitter telling, so-and-so at the academics that I'm going to class. Like my grades are fine. Like I'm going to do my business. Cause like, again, that was my plan was to do well in school and utilize the football to help me after. And it was just little things like that really frustrated me and really, irritated me with college football. And, part of that was because I was so much older, but part of it too was like, I feel like I'm in middle school again. Like this is how my parents treated me when I was in middle school. Like by the time I was in high school, it was like, you got to get your stuff done. Like whatever it takes for you to get it done, you got to get it done. And I found a way to do that and was able to be successful with it. So it was definitely difficult. And I'm glad I did the college thing because it got me to where I'm at, but I would never do it again.
And talk about where you're at now, Nick. You mentioned you played linebacker, went to fullback in college. At what point were you like, okay, this long snapping thing could be me, right? And I know you went to the Saints. I saw you when you were at the Saints, right? I was finishing with the Buccaneers in 2019. I saw you at the Saints. Then you went to the XFL, the Vipers here in Tampa, then the Ravens. But yeah, like what was that transition like? And now you've been in the league for 5-6 years. Like, how did that happen?
So it was one of those things in college. It was like, hey, after practice one day, team huddle, and the coaches are like, hey, does anybody that play a position know how to long snap? And I was just kind of like, my freshman year, I was like, yeah, like I kind of do. And so they gave me a small opportunity my freshman year, snapped a little bit during fall camp, and then nothing else after that. We had a bunch of long snappers on scholarship there. And then my junior year or my sophomore year, similar kind of deal. We had a new coach. Kirby came in. Mark had gotten let go. So Kirby came in and same type of deal. Like, does anybody know how to long snap? And I was like, yeah, I do. And so they gave me a little bit more of an opportunity. I basically snapped all spring practice, all fall camp, and then all through that season, and had a chance to maybe play in a game, didn't perform well in practice. And so I wasn't able to play, and then didn't play long snapper that year, but played some other positions. And then my junior year, Kirby again was like, all right, we're going to have you do fullback and long snapper. And then the guy that was our starter got hurt, and I was the next guy up. So I got a chance to play in 4 games my junior year. Played well in the games, got some good tape, and started to kind of earn the trust with Kirby. And then my senior year, the guy in front of me had graduated. Kirby was like, do you want to play long snapper or fullback? I was basically like, man, fullbacks for the birds. I don't want that.
The birds.
Yeah, you can have it. I had enough hitting Roquan. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
And so I moved to long snapper my senior year, and really started the trajectory of where I got to. And like, I had a coach there that kept pushing me, like, that you can play at the next level. Like, I have coached guys that you're better than that play at the next level, and like, you can do it. It's just a matter of whether or not I want to do it. And he was the first guy
what makes a really good long snapper?
The number one thing is consistency. I think our job is one of those that a lot of people don't pay attention to. They just kind of assume that every snap is going to be perfect. And so that's like kind of our number one thing. You have to, obviously there's like basics where you have to be able to snap the ball, accurately with some good velocity and a good spiral. But the biggest thing is being able to have consistently good snaps more often than not. And the college game versus NFL game is extremely different in the sense of I have limited responsibility as a college long snapper. You don't have to block very many people. There's a lot of rules on how they can block you and do things to you. And most teams don't have a guy who's like a viable threat as an athlete. And because most guys nowadays are true long snappers, they grew up long snapping in high school, got a scholarship to long snap. That's kind of all they ever did. And so I was a guy who got to a point in college where I wanted to play on the field, and I just needed to figure out how I could be more a part of the team. And long snapping was kind of that avenue for me. And fortunately, I can snap the ball pretty well. I was quarterback, played third base, got a decent arm. Like, it took a long time to kind of hone my skills, but I was good enough in college to do the job. And so I was able to play 14 games my senior year. And that was kind of the first thought of like, hey, maybe I could actually make a career out of this, but like long snapping is such an easy gig that like there's so few opportunities available every year. And a lot of it has to do with timing, not necessarily talent. And I learned that, going to the Saints, getting cut, not playing in 2019 NFL. I played the XFL and 2019, 2020, and then got my second opportunity in the NFL with the Ravens in 2020. And I was still super raw, didn't have a ton of history as a long snapper. I only played 17 games as a long snapper in college, which nowadays you got guys coming out with like 60 games at long snapper. So I was very underexperienced, if you will, in college. And took me basically 2.5 years to really master my skill. And because when you get to the NFL, there's so much more that goes into being a long snapper.
Yeah.
You have to block, you have to tackle, you have to, you're going up against guys like Cam that they're real football players, linebackers, defensive ends, fullbacks, tight ends, real big physical guys that you have to learn how to block guys that are bigger, faster, stronger, more athletic, better football understanding. They get paid to do that. And my job is to not let them do that. And I, fortunately I'm a big guy. I'm 265 now and pretty athletic. So I was able to leverage that as kind of my reasoning for why I should be at this level. And then as I got to this level, I progressed and learned the ins and outs of my job and got better at snapping and working on my technique and stuff. But it was a slow transition.
Was there ever any confusion because the first part of your career, the ball went forward and now it has to go backwards? Have you ever like mixed it up where you accidentally threw it forwards from your baseball days?
I think I really attribute a lot of my success in football to my experiences in baseball because my job is very similar to like an offensive, what we would call a position player in baseball, where you have limited opportunities to perform. But when you get that opportunity to perform, you're expected to perform. In baseball, it's a little bit different because hitting is very difficult. But like if in the field, for instance, you might only get 1 or 2 ground balls a game, but you're expected to be 100% perfect on every rep. And you sit around a lot. It's not a very active game. My position is very similar in that regard. And so I think a lot of people struggle in my job with the mental side of it because that is the hardest part of doing my job at this level is the mental aspect of it because you have so few reps and every rep has to be perfect and there's a long wait period between reps and it's a hard concept for people to grasp. And I think what I experienced in baseball really helped, and also the throwing aspect of baseball with the repetition of kind of that arm movement. I kind of perfected that at an early age, so I was able to utilize that in a position where I do that every single time I'm out there.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're a really good example of, I think kids these days starting really early specialize in a certain position and their parents think he's going to be the next best quarterback, the next best wide receiver. And at 6 years old, you're siloed into that path. And I feel like you being a multifaceted athlete and the Swiss Army knife is really what ultimately led to you being able to have this opportunity in the NFL.
I couldn't agree more. I think the reason why I'm able to do what I do now is because I have all these different experiences in different sports, different positions, and I tell people, my career in athletics after high school has been nothing but adversity the entire way. So I graduated high school at 18. I'm now 32 years old. So 14 years of just constant adversity and having to pivot every single year to in baseball, I changed my position every year. And in college football, I changed my position basically every year. And I've dealt with being cut multiple times and all this other stuff. And all of that prepared me for my job now. And I think that's my biggest strength that I have is, I might not be the best snapper. I might not be the best blocker. I might not be the fastest long snapper or the best tackler, but if you put all three of those pieces together, plus the mental side of it, I think there's nobody better at my job than me. And I think I have a unique history and a unique pathway to get here. And I think that is why I'm able to be as successful as I am as a long snapper in the NFL.
Yeah, Nick, we're proud of you. I am myself since middle school. It's great to see you at this position. Also wanted to ask you before we do wrap up here, Nick, what's it been like playing with Lamar and Derrick Henry? I got to ask you because I know people ask you a lot, but come on, you got the 2-time MVP, you got Derrick Henry. Like, what's that been like?
It is the most fun thing to watch. I think 8 is the most extraordinary athlete we have ever seen. His abilities to make plays and do stuff on the football field, you really just sit there and watch. Like you're watching a master at work, and it's one of the most remarkable things that I can be a part of. And Derrick is very similar, and I'm very fortunate that they're on my team because it makes my job a lot easier and do a lot of field goal snaps instead of punt snaps. It's just so much fun. Like when you watch somebody that good at their job and you see what they do on a day-to-day basis in preparation for the games, it's really a privilege and an honor and to be able to see that on every day. And then you watch the result. Like people watch what happens on Sunday, but I see Lamar doing stuff crazier than that on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah. It's like, this is nothing. You guys are just getting the tip of the iceberg here. Like this guy has so much more to bring to the game, and Derrick the same way. Like it's this past season was unbelievable. And I was bummed that he didn't get the MVP again for a third time. And Josh Allen is a great player, but Lamar Jackson is truly one of a kind. And I don't know if we've never seen anybody like him. I don't know if we will see anyone like him again. He is just so special. And it's the most fun thing I do every day is watch him work.
Is he a nice person?
Yeah, Lamar is a great guy. He's very quiet. He's very kept to himself. He's very private. I didn't know he had a daughter until I think my 3rd year with him on the team. But he's very quiet, but like knows everybody's names. Very respectful to everybody. Treats everybody the same. Now he has a couple guys he's like boys with on the team that he grew up with or whatever, but everyone is equal to him. And like, he does such a good job being a leader for us. Like NFL quarterback is the guy. Like he is the number one dude. If you got a good quarterback that brings the team together, that's an unbelievable player on the field, you're going to have a successful team. And for us, Lamar is just such a special person and special player that like, it's no wonder he's winning awards and we're winning games. Like it's just truly a testament to who he is on and off the field. And, I'm just glad I'm a part of this history as small as I am. I love being on his team and I love watching him play. And Derrick, same thing for Derrick. I mean, I know Derrick went to Alabama, but
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there was a quick story with Derrick. Kirby Smart came over from Alabama to Georgia in 2016, and I'll never forget this because we had an issue at Georgia with guys not wanting to play special teams. And that was kind of our MO. Like none of the good players wanted to do special teams. And Kirby shows us this clip of Alabama versus Georgia in 2015, the year Derrick Henry won the Heisman Trophy. And they beat the ever-living brakes off us that game. It was like 38-10, and we scored a touchdown in the 4th quarter on some Reggie Ragland made a mistake, and Nick Chubb ran 80 yards for a touchdown. But we got hammered, and it was pouring down rain, like complete monsoon. And it's the 4th quarter. They're winning 38-3, and Derrick Henry is playing punt. He's playing on the punt team.
PP.
And, he was playing guard on punt team, and they ran the pro style. Yeah, they ran the pro style back then. Yeah, and Kirby showed us that clip, and we watched it probably 100 times. That like just fast forward, rewind, watching there for like 20 minutes, and he just said, if Derrick Henry can win the Heisman and a national championship and be the best player in college football, anyone in here can play special teams. Nobody's above that. And now that I know Derrick, at this level, and this is 10 years after the fact. I think it's so true, so cool, because he is the same guy that he was, even with MVP or the Offensive Player of the Year and all the accolades he's gotten in the NFL. It's no wonder he is so good. Like,
is it stiff arm? Is it stiff arm nasty, Nick?
It's that thing, boy. That's a gift from God. That stiff arm, dude. You better watch out. He puts his hand up like that, bro. You better watch out, because that thing's coming, and it's violent and it hurts, and it's quick too, man. He's fast and powerful, and it's another one of those guys in my Rolodex that I'm just so fortunate to be able to be on the same field as these guys and watch them, how they take care. Like, that dude's got the strictest diet ever. It's crazy. And like how he takes care of his body off the field and what he does at work and all the things that you're supposed to do, he just does it at a higher level than everybody. And it's a wonder to see. So I'm very lucky in that regard.
Okay, so final question. Have you considered getting I have been teammates with Mookie Betts and Lamar Jackson tattooed on your forehead?
I thought about it.
Because who else has that claim to fame? Like, the two biggest players in two of the biggest sports. Like, who are you, Nick?
I'm very lucky that I was able to be around these guys and kind of show me the way, because Mook is in his own right one of the most talented individuals I've ever met, and a genuine person. And Lamar, same for him. And just being able to have those role models, even as a 32-year-old man who's pretty established as well in his athletic career, like it's so, I can always go back to those memories of working out with Mookie, when we didn't need to be working out. And I can take that in my own right and kind of be like, man, I know Mookie Betts would be working out right now. I know he'd be eating better. I know he'd be doing this. And having those real experiences, I think, just helped me be better at my job and helped me be a better person and better father and better husband and better in every aspect of my life. And I can draw on those memories and those examples that they led for me. So I'm just super blessed to have those.
Wow, Nick, I hope you get some Lamar Jackson jerseys and Derrick Henry jerseys. At some point, go ahead and get those jerseys locked in.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. Well, I did hear that Tom Brady had a whole bunch of stuff, like jerseys stacked up next to his locker so he can sign. He did it. So maybe implement that for Lamar. But Nick, man, it's been great reconnecting with you. Thanks for hopping on the Energy Captains podcast, my man. We're gonna have you back, because this is, we went about an hour. You know what I mean? This has been great.
I love it, man. Anytime, dude. I feel like I have a unique story and I have a unique perspective on a lot of different things. And, my goal is just to get one person to hear my story and maybe think like it's possible. Like I've done a lot of different stuff. I've been knocked down so many times, and it's like the only thing you can do is just keep trying, keep working, figuring out a way to be successful. And whether that's in sports or not, it's not really the point. It's just keep going forward, keep working hard, keep your head down, do the right things. And eventually there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and you just have to keep pushing for that. And that's my message to spread, is like, don't give up. Like, life's going to hit you in the face. Yeah. Everybody says you have a plan until you get punched in the face. And it's like, that is where I feel like most people, like anybody who's successful, has been punched in the face a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And you can't get to the top if you don't go through those levels of adversity. And, it's just another piece to the story. You just keep stacking, and eventually you might get a book or something, it's crazy.
He has a book.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing your book come out.
That's crazy.
There it is. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because my book is called You Are the First You, which is, I was so adamant on that title because, similar to your story, and what I really took away is I feel like a lot of your stops and the timing, you kind of felt like you were in the wrong place because it was such different timing and such a different place than everyone else around you. But no one has been you before, and you were meant to have your own unique journey, timing. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been at this point. And I think people get FOMO, they let too many outside influences infiltrate them, and it's so important to have tunnel vision, to do the work, and to just have that determination to go after the life you were meant for, and that maybe you're carving out a path that hasn't existed before, and it's hard to do, but that allows you to reach your potential. And it's like your story lets people know that no one has been them before, and so they're maybe on a journey that hasn't existed, but they're the ones who are meant to carve it out like you did.
I agree.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Well, Nick, we appreciate you. We won't hold you too much longer. And I know you want to start a podcast at some point, so let me know. I'll hop on the podcast and show some love. But Nick, we appreciate you. Whitney's always great doing the Energy Captains podcast, but this might be our best one yet, Nick. I'm not gonna lie. You gave us some great stuff, so we appreciate you.
Yeah, well, and thanks for making time for us in between Mookie, Lamar, and Derek. we appreciate it.
I got a lot of free time these days with my boys. They're keeping me.
He says there was no other option, just us tonight. All right, well, you're going to get that ring for sure, and then you're going to have to come back on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
All right, thanks for coming on, Nick.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, guys.